Let's talk title race and Arsenal. Another victory for them, this time at Craven Cottage, away to Fulham. A set piece did it as well, 1-0 victory there yesterday. The Sun says golden eye with Leandro Trossard's famous celebration. Jonathan, it was another win for Arsenal, back to the top of the league. Do they finally look like champions for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it since the start of the season, since before the start of the season. I did my Premier League predictions for The Guardian. I predicted Arsenal would win the title. I still stick by that. Probably a little bit more certain about it now, given having looked at the competition from the likes of Liverpool and City. And, this is the sort of, Fulham, it's a cliche, it's the sort of game that champions win, that champions find a way. It's the place where they haven't won in the last couple of seasons. And the way they did it was just so brutally efficient, right? Just like a very big man flicking the ball. It felt like something. It felt like something from the 90s, right? Like Steve Bold getting up at the near post and flicking it on for Alan Smith to convert. It did feel like a bit of a throwback in that way. But this is what makes them so effective. They can wear a couple of deficiencies or players out of form in other areas of the pitch because they have so many different ways of scoring goals. They have set pieces, they have crosses, they have goals from midfield, the likes of Rice and Marino, and then obviously the front three threat as well.
Martin, last season they lost at Newcastle, they lost at home to West Ham, they drew at Craven Cottage, and if you want to go further back, they lost their last home game to Olympiacos as well. Those have been their last 4 games, and this time they've won all of those 4 games. Are you detecting a different belief, a different steel, a different look to Arsenal, and maybe lessons being learnt from?
Yeah, they got the best squad in the country, which that helps. Theirs is the best squad in the country. I thought Liverpool would win the league because they were the best team last year and they look to have improved their squad from last year. So you think they're going to be very hard to get past. But Arsenal have got the best squad in depth, without a shadow of a doubt. There's not, you could, Arsenal's second 11, you look at and, there's, the 2 centre-halves and stuff like that. But it's really, really good. It's better than City's, it's better than Liverpool's. So they've lost Odegaard at the moment, they've lost Saka, and they've ridden it. So yeah, it's once you're on top, it's yours to lose, isn't it? I mean, at any stage in the season, really, it's yours to lose once you're on top. So they're in a very, very strong position, and the idea of as John said there about Steve Bold and that, it's that sort of an Arsenal team as well. I think if they were to win the league, they're not going to go down as champions that that will live on as, oh, what wonderful, this was the most wonderful football and we were seeing football like we'd never seen before. It's not going to be like one of those seasons. It's going to be a team wins it, with a little bit of brute force. Some wonderful players in there, but they're wonderful players in George Graham's Arsenal team as well. People forget how many wonderful players there were in that team. But they won it in a certain way, and this Arsenal will win it in a certain way. If they do, which they could well do.
There was a perception, wasn't there, sorry, Dime, that Gyökeres was like the missing piece and that he was going to be the big signing, and I think, he's getting there, but I think what they've done, that Martin alluded to, is just raise the floor of the squad. Last season, the difference between them and Liverpool, arguably, was Liverpool kept everyone fit. Arsenal lost Saka, they lost Odegaard for periods, they lost the centre-half for a period, and they struggled. Now they've got Madueke, who can fill in for Saka. They've got Eza, who can fill in for Odegaard and did yesterday. And they've got Mosquera at the back, who can step into the back 4 if they need to. So the floor of the squad has really come up, and it feels like if they lose those players, which they have now with Odegaard, they've got players who can step in who are of similar quality, and I don't think they had that last season.
You mentioned Victor Gyökeres there, and Jonathan was saying, covering up those deficiencies, and they've managed to do that, even though in certain areas they might not be firing as much as they would like. Gyökeres clearly will need time to get used to a new league, but on the flip side, you're looking at Leandro Trossard as being Arsenal's 10th different scorer in the Premier League. And it's something Martin said there about the squad. first 11s win games, I guess, and squads win titles.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's never a bad thing to have goals spread out throughout the squad like that. I think partly it's a consequence of their strength at set pieces and it's the attention to detail of Arteta. You know, he's all about the marginal gains and the fine margins, isn't he? And he's prepped every single scenario meticulously to give Arsenal every advantage they can. I'll defer to Jonathan on Gyökeres because I know he's got.
We all defer.
No, I mean, look,
Gyökeres.
I like him. I like Gyökeres. I think the fact that, you know, what you were saying about the fact that they have so many different, they have goals coming from all different areas of the team, it takes a bit of pressure off him. You know, I think he obviously comes with a lot of scrutiny. He comes with a big price tag, but his job is not simply to I don't think his job is going to be to bang in 20, 25 goals. He is supposed to be there to provide a point of difference, to provide runs in behind, and ultimately create space for the creative players around him. You see, I think Saka's looking much freer this season because Gyökeres is occupying defenders in the central areas where the centre half would usually step out and double up on Saka. You're finding that they're a little bit more reluctant to do that now because you have the threat of Gyökeres occupying them in the area. So I think Gyökeres is not going to be like a 20-25 goal. He might score 8 or 9 this season, but they're going to be important goals. And the fact that you also have guys like Madueke, you have Eze, you have Nwaneri and Max Dowman who haven't really made an impact yet, but might well do in the second half of the season. I think you now have an Arsenal team that, you know, people call them, you know, boring or functional or whatever, but they have lots and lots of constituent parts which can produce for them.
On the flip side, Martin, when you look at Manchester City, they do have a striker who seems to be quite good in front of goal at this moment in time. 23 goals in 13 appearances for club and country this season for Erling Haaland. Is he the best we've seen in the Premier League at what he does?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember Shearer. Whether whether you felt the same about Shearer, whether you felt the same even about Harry Kane, Thierry Henry, probably not really. I mean, there's something about I mean, it is a great irony. Guardiola's comment that time that so upset everyone connected with Tottenham about the Harry Kane team, because you look at Manchester City at the moment and, you know, it's the Erling Haaland team. It's, you know, feed this guy, you know, get the ball into this guy. And in the end, Guardiola has changed the way that City play for him. You know, they now, whereas that in that early season, that way was so established, you know, that Haaland was a sort of icing on the cake, really, but that way was so established. Whereas now, you look at it and he's thinking, right, we feed this guy. We play for we get it to this guy, and this guy will win us matches, which they would do. You know, I was following it. I didn't see the game live, but I'm following it yesterday on and you're looking at it and it's 0-0, and you can imagine the game in your head, and you think, yeah, this is a David Moyes performance, and this is what they're doing, and then you go, and then you see bang, 1-0 Haaland, and then you see bang, 2-0 Haaland. You think, right, there you go. There's the difference.
Right, but it was a much more open game than it. You know, I saw the extended highlights, and it was like Everton had a lot of chances, and Haaland's goals. This is the key, I think, this season. Haaland's goals come from quick attacks. I think what we were seeing in the last couple of seasons is City were dominating possession and territory, and it was quite static, and he was having to find room in a crowded area. And obviously he could still do it because he's a top striker, but where you really unleash Haaland is when you get him running from 40 or 50 yards out, and I think that's the penny has dropped a little bit for some people. I think that's why Reinders has been such a big signing, because he can take the ball and he can instantly play that pass. Obviously that's why De Bruyne and him and Haaland clicked so well. So I think that's been the big difference this season, that they are simply attacking with a lot more speed and purpose and being willing to get the ball forward a lot earlier, and I think that's playing to his strengths.
He's got that quality that only the very best players have. Messi and Ronaldo are the best examples, where you can watch him sometimes and you think, oh, he's not interested today. You know, he's kind of walking around the pitch, and you start to wonder if he's having an off day, and then he'll just come alive in the big moments. And I think, again, I only saw the extended highlights, but it felt like that game yesterday was a bit like that. I think Moyes said, I thought we were coping with him really well, and then it's bang, these two moments where he just lights up, and that's the difference.
But the danger is when we're comparing Arsenal and Manchester City, we're talking about maybe the criticism aimed at Gyökeres, but everyone else contributing. In Mike McGrath's piece, his match report, what Haaland is doing with his goals is papering over any cracks City have this season. Guardiola says they cannot be too reliant on him. They are, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. Yeah, as Martin says, they do feel like the Erling Haaland team at the moment, and at some point, presumably, given how intense the schedule is, given he might get injured or suspended or whatever, they're going to have to do it without him. And I think they'll have to answer that question when it comes. But yeah, for now, he can, as I said, kind of stroll through games, conserve energy, and burst up the pitch when he needs to, or come alive in the penalty box, and that's winning them games.